On today's edition of the CHGO Cubs-related podcast, the Cubs have won 2 series in a row. Can they keep that momentum going alongside an excellent stretch from Pete Crow-Armstrong? We'll talk about that, some of the offensive struggles, and more on today's edition of the CHGO Cubs-related podcast. This is the CHGO Cubs-related podcast presented by Toyota and Bet365. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. My name is Corey. I am joined, as always, by Brendan. We are coming to you on Friday, June 19th. And Brendan, it was not pretty, but the Cubs have won 2 series in a row. And for a team that went over a month without winning any of them, I think we're going to have to take it for the time being.
And their last win, their first win at Wrigley without the walk-off. So we're making
which we were wondering, but like there was enough space that like and a bunch of losses that I was like, is that true? And
it's true.
Yeah, I guess it was.
Since May 7th or May 8th, I believe it was. Insane.
Yeah. So a lot to talk about on today's episode. We'll talk about the Rockies series and kind of what we saw in the 2 series wins against the Giants on the road and here at Wrigley Field against the Rockies. We'll talk about the good, bad, and the ugly of that most recent series because there was a little bit of each. We've got some more pitching injuries to talk about with Daniel Palencia heading back to the injured list. Yeah, always great. Hopefully some positive development on Matthew Boyd. We can touch on that. At least a promising update relative to what we had heard before on Justin Steele. What it means, still not really sure yet. So we'll talk about all of that. We'll talk about the pitching staff. We will talk about Pete Crow-Armstrong, who once again has himself in MVP conversations and is currently pick your metric, Brendan, on whichever side of the field you'd like. And he is one of the best in baseball. So It has been an incredible stretch for Pete Crow-Armstrong. We will talk about Moises Ballesteros heading back down to AAA to get some everyday playing time. We'll talk about Matt Shaw. We'll talk about Pedro Ramirez. We'll talk about it all. Let's start, though, Brendan, with this Colorado series. So the Cubs do win 2 of 3 games. But I was texting you, to me, this felt like a microcosm of who this team is right now. Each of the 3 nights represents sort of how this team is going at the moment. You have a close win. You claw your way back on Monday. You leave 1 billion people on base. Your pitching is good enough. You end up pulling it off late with another walk-off walk from Matt Shaw. Next night, sort of the same deal. Pitching is definitely good enough. Although not great, right, with Cabrera. But your offense can only put up 2 runs. You leave 1 million people on base. Easily pick your inning. They could have found the time to score more than 5 runs. Then in the game on Wednesday, you have finally a big crooked number, a 7-run inning, though, of course, naturally they do next to nothing the rest of the game, which was fairly predictable. And even then, now it's the pitching's turn to take the step backward, and you still have a save opportunity in a game that at one point you led 8-2. When I say it's a microcosm of who they are not able in this stretch to get all facets of the game, offense, starting pitching, and relief pitching, I guess defense in there, but their defense is always good, to click at the same time. Something is always breaking on one night or the other. And what's missing in those 3 games, Brendan, despite winning the series, no dominance, no dominant win, no clean, easy win. We thought it was Wednesday, but even that, we're grinding out. I tweeted this out the other day. Every game with this team, they're winning at least a little bit lately, but it is an absolute slog. They have to grind out everything.
Yeah. When you see Pete come out of this early season funk and carry the team, their record could be a lot worse than it currently is because of Pete's performance over the last 3 weeks. So it's a microcosm of the entire year, Corey. Them not being able to win consistently, elongate their win streaks. But at the same time, it is to some degree what was missing 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Because if you can make those losing streaks a little less severe,
Yes.
well, then your 3-4 games over is actually 8 or 9 because you have a superstar or a high caliber offensive guy carrying you.
Right. And no, that's the key is now, granted, like the Giants have not been good. The Rockies are terrible. So trust me.
Well, it didn't look like it.
Yeah, I know. Right. Trust me, we're going to get into this a little, but like, this is not us celebrating them winning a series against the Rockies. They looked every bit matched with a team that's 20 games under 500. That's not a good thing. But as you're saying, the big problem during that month plus stretch was it was all just going poorly. You weren't sneaking in some of these one-run wins or getting, just that one key hit. So instead of kind of floating around 500 during that stretch, maybe a few games below, they were 7-21 at one point during that stretch. And that's what has us here, is that it wasn't close to the middle. It was all just going south. So at the very least, picking up these series wins, finding ways to win these games, they're, currently sitting in a playoff spot. And there's time ahead of the deadline. And, as we always say, like, you want a seat at the table, and the team, as it looks like right now on, what did I just say? June 19th, like that wouldn't be the team that necessarily takes the field in September. And if they are able to make the playoffs. So now trying to get some semblance of healthy and just win games when you can, whether it was pretty or not.
That's the formula for the rest of the season. I've given up, justifiably so, on the first round bye. I would love to win the division. Okay. Don't get me wrong. But if you win the division without that first round bye, then your odds of going forth in any playoff October run is no different than having won a wild card. So when the Braves started to perform, when the Dodgers got off to their predictable start, even with Milwaukee playing well, only 2 of those 3 teams will make that first round bye. So the Cubs' best path forward, we ended last episode on this, is winning a wild card, getting healthy, and getting hot. Getting Seiya Suzuki to repeat last October, getting Michael Busch to repeat last October, and you pray that their pitching is a little bit more strong. If that's the case, absolutely they can make a run and find themselves in a World Series like the 2024 Diamondbacks, or it's 2023. My years are all mixed up now.
Right.
But it's all possible, and that is the formula. I hate saying, oh, well, we have to shoot for 85 to 88, but like in reality, that is a situation that they have.
And again, a lot can change. We're going to talk about some of the players and things like that. And like I said, hopefully Matthew Boyd coming back and getting healthy, even if it's months from now, and you can get Justin Steele back as a couple inning opener in some of these games. Like that would certainly help. Like you take all the help that you can get. Cabrera, left with the hand cramp thing, seems to be fine. So hopefully you're making strides there. But yeah, like this series against Colorado just felt like such a clear picture of where they're at right now, in terms of how those games played out. And I do think kind of and we've talked about this, like what you would expect going forward. Like the pitching is, showed a nice solid start there. So he's had some good starts recently. But you're likely going to have to outslug some teams during this upcoming stretch. Like you're playing with fire, especially Palencia is out. We've talked about so many struggles with this bullpen. So, a few guys in there at any given time that like probably shouldn't be on an MLB roster. And maybe that time is coming to an end. But like trying to constantly win these low scoring games, especially against better teams with better bullpens, like it's not going to be a good exercise. They're going to have to hit to support this pitching staff coming up. And again, look, like they won the series. I'm glad at that. The season moves forward. but their 2 performances against Lorenzen in the last week,
it's laughable.
I mean, enough to keep you awake at night. I mean, a guy with a 7+ ERA, I think coming into the start in Colorado, it was over 8, and they did next to nothing against him in 2 starts. One in Coors Field in Colorado, sure, on the road, but Coors Field. The other in your own ballpark against a team that's 20 games under 500 around him. It leaves a lot to be desired, Brendan. I know we expect better from the offense and, not to be that bad, but watching those performances, and you tweeted about it, like it spoke to what we talked about last week and what Jason Kipnis was talking about on the Marquee postgame show, where you're watching some of these games.
I mean, he ripped into them.
I don't know what these guys are doing up there. I said that last week, that I don't like to armchair hitting coach, but there are a lot of these games where you're like, even if I was trying, I don't think I could tell you what they're attempting to do up there. Are they playing small ball? Are they trying to work a pitcher back into the zone? Are they laying off speed stuff? Are they trying to go the other way? I have no clue. They look like they don't know.
Yeah. Jason Kipnis' comments were illuminating. Anytime a recent player like Kipnis, who's late 30s, early 40s, just played a couple years ago, when he says something like that on air, like my ears perk up.
Sure.
Especially for someone like him and his career line. So that was shocking. I think my default is always to say, a lot of this is just the natural ebb and flow, and they're working through the things they need to be working on. But when you have a player point out like, hey, I can't tell what they're doing, then for me, I'm like, okay, well, what am I missing over here? Let me go back at the video and see if I'm missing anything. But where I'm hoping the season lands is once we get to the end of August, early September, and all the constant talk we have about projections. You want to be 92 to enter the year, 95 to enter the year. Once September hits, that is frankly out the door. Like those conversations cease to exist. The reason I always focus on, hey, you want to be 95 to enter the year, is to make the playoffs. But if the Cubs find themselves in a position where they are going to make the playoffs, then I don't care about the preseason projection. Sure. At that point, it's just a matter of who is hot, who is healthy, and who is available. And in my mind, the perfect scenario would be that you have Boyd healthy, Edward Cabrera healthy, even pitching to some degree like an average of last year and this year. Doesn't even have to be his best. You have Shota, same thing, a hybrid of 2024 and 2025, just being able to throw innings. 3 guys right there. And then you just have the rest of the staff healthy. Javi Assad, Ben Brown is some mix of what he is realistically speaking by October. And you have innings and availability. You flip a coin and you think, okay, just get me through a game 5 elimination game against Milwaukee in Milwaukee. That's all feasible. Get to September, right? Tread water, stay healthy, and things can get crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to, and again, always things can change, but it's fair to acknowledge right now, like this certainly doesn't look like a great team. However, they're in a decent enough position. And so that's always worth seeing through. Like seats at the dance, tickets to the dance, seats at the table. I'm combining my things here.
No, same thing.
All that matters. Like you just need a chance. You have to get in. And, look, of course, like as this franchise and fans of the Chicago Cubs, we want to be holding them to a higher standard. I wish right now we were talking about a team like we were a couple months ago that is pacing baseball in wins and offensive stats and all this stuff. It's not where they're at right now. And like you can look back at the last month plus and it doesn't look good. Like they're an under 500 team like that has lost some bad series to bad teams. They can't hit, terrible pitchers, but it's still June. They're in a good position. And I think some of this ought to turn around in a positive direction. So this is certainly not by any means I know some of the fan base might feel this way, but it's not a lost season. There's still an opportunity here. And what we're going to talk about on the rest of the show is how do they tap into that? How do they get there? What should they do with certain situations? What do we think about certain situations? And figuring out how we kind of press forward here. We're going to talk about PCA in a little bit, but before you hit the ad break here, one last thought on like that Rockies.
Well, I got one last thought too. Then we're going to have
dive
next
into
10 minutes.
The specifics. But like the game on Monday, like you want an indication of where this offense is at sometimes. You had a guy hit for the cycle and a sack fly. He scored 1 run.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
He was on third base, I think, he had scored on a home run, obviously, and was on third base with no outs, I believe. Yep.
Scored we're going to talk about it, Corey.
The whole night. That's the best indication of the offense that I can give you.
Yeah, and the one thing, the challenge you and I have doing these shows is trying to make it clear that this is not optimistic. Like, we can rewind the last 15 minutes. I guarantee you there might be a sect of listeners who are like, hey, they sound pretty optimistic right now.
Brandon just said they're going to win the World Series.
This is not, they're going to win the World Series. This is not optimistic. A coin flip. Are you kidding me? That's not optimistic. My optimism is one of the likely outcome. If I'm flipping coins over here, I'm miserable half the time. I don't want that to happen. So I do want to frame like the discussion of,
100%.
Hey, they could still be in the playoffs, not as one of optimism. Let's take the ad break here. We have a lot to talk about. Dear Friday, Toyota says, let's put good times into gear with the Toyota Tundra, Toyota Tacoma, and Toyota 4Runner. Whether you're loading up for a Cubs game, heading out for a weekend road trip, towing the boat to the lake, or just getting out of town for a long week, Toyota has you there, and they are built to make every Friday feel like the start of an adventure. And Toyota packed these vehicles with available features that make your life easier. Available power tailgates help you load coolers, gear, and groceries with ease, while the available trailer backup guide gives you extra confidence when it's time to back into a parking spot, campsite, or boat ramp. So go ahead, take the long way home, stay out just a little bit later, maybe even pretend Monday does not exist for a while. Toyota trucks ready for every season, every weekend, and every adventure. Find yours today at toyota.com. Our friends at Sunnyside Dispensary are here to elevate your baseball season. Sunnyside is your home for judgment-free shopping with more than 100 different strains to choose from. Easy online ordering and convenient in-store pickup. No matter where you are in Illinois, there's likely a Sunnyside nearby with locations stretching from Champaign to South Beloit and expert staff ready at each one to help you find exactly what you're looking for. This summer, be sure to check out the Good News Tea Time Vapes featuring a refreshing lemonade flavor that pairs perfectly with a day on the golf course. And don't miss Stash Pass Summer, Sunnyside's rewards program running now through Labor Day. Simply visit and make qualifying purchases to earn stamps. For only the best under the sun, head to Sunnyside's website and take advantage of 50% off your first 3 online purchases when you use promo code HICHGO at checkout. Only the best under the sun, must be 21 or older to purchase, or a registered Illinois medical card cannabis holder.
All right, Brendan, before we dive into some of the, negatives concerning stuff, I want to start with a more fun player to discuss. And let's do that in our Taking the Temp segment. That is Taking the Temp, brought to you by Four Seasons, your trusted local experts for heating, air conditioning, plumbing, sewer, and electric. They've been serving Chicagoland for over 50 years. Four Seasons, your trusted local experts for heating, air conditioning, plumbing, sewer, and electric. Visit fourseasonsheatingcooling.com for all those special offers and money-saving coupons. That's fourseasonsheatingcooling.com. Let's take the temperature, and I'll tell you, Brendan, it's hot. It's red hot on one Pete Crow-Armstrong.
Right.
Across Major League Baseball, we are a Fangraphs family here on the Cubs-related podcast. In terms of WAR, wins above replacement, there is only one player ahead of Pete Crow-Armstrong on this list, and that is Kansas City Royals star Bobby Witt Jr. at 4.2. Number 2 in all of baseball, Pete Crow-Armstrong.
There you go.
Top 25, I believe, in WRC plus. If you're just looking on the offensive side, best center fielder in the game, hit for the cycle on Monday. And Brendan, you and I, before he really got hot, we were highlighting some of these things, and we were not alone in that. There were a lot of people that were paying attention to his under the hood stuff. It looked good. The way he was, cutting some of that chase, being more deliberate with the pitches in the zone, that
higher
he was
contact
swinging at,
rate against fastballs,
hard contact, etc. We've dove into the data, and we'll look at a little bit more now. But even just from the eye test, man, he just looks fantastic. Yeah. He looks so poised in the box. He is smacking the ball. I mean,
he
everything,
looks stronger,
95
bigger,
or above, hitting homers. We got to get him to lay off at eye level when there's a runner on third and less than 2 outs. He's
we
struck
can't
out
be perfect, Corey,
on a couple of those. Right. He can't be perfect. That's fine. Yeah. But the numbers back it up. He's performing at a top level in baseball, and the eye test matches it, man. He looks fantastic.
He looks great, and the changes he's made over the last 3 weeks seem to have preceded this hot stretch. And whenever a change in mechanics takes place and you see success, to me, that signals like, okay, this guy is figuring something else out. Last year, the change he made that preceded 2025's success was he went to more of like a mini toe tap. This one, he lowered his hands, and I believe it was Kipnis, maybe it was Cliff Floyd, but the comparison that was made was to Kyle Schwarber and how Kyle Schwarber lowered his hands, still had their rhythm, but it was just in a more convenient hitting position. And that stood out to me. So when you watch Pete, you can easily see like his hands are lower. Then the question is, well, what's that doing to the contact? And now with all of this new swing data, contact point data.
Oh, are you enjoying that?
Oh my God.
Oh, okay.
We are enjoying it. This is all I did at work today. Let me tell you that. Hopefully no one's listening. You can literally plot what part the baseball touches the bat. And let me tell you this. The only reason I looked into pitching stuff over the past 6 years was because there was none of this hitting stuff available. I'm a middle infielder by trade, Corey. You think I'm a pitcher? Absolutely not. I'm not one of the psycho pitchers.
Well, hopefully Tommy Hodavy's not listening to this.
Well, Tommy, I can pitch too if you need me, so I can do both. I can a little bit like a Shohei.
The way you were like, oh man, I hope he's not actually.
But you can go in, you can see, okay, are these guys barreling it up? And if you ever played MLB The Show, like perfect timing, right? You can do the same thing now with real life data. And that is what we did. So if we look at Pete's recent hot stretch in June, on the right, you can see what part of the bat is touching the baseball, touching the pitch. And the darker each individual part of the barrel bat on the right, the more frequent the hits. So in April, you see there's not many barrels, not many perfects right there, Corey, right? In June, most of it's perfect. So what does that tell you? He's getting the barrel to the pitch more often. He's in a position that's conducive to barreling the ball up. The swing path hasn't really changed that much. Getting the barrel to the ball has changed. The timing too, if you go back, I'll play it one more time. The timing hasn't really changed that much. He's typically a little bit early in front of pitches, and that's why you see him pulling the ball. What's changed is his ability to hit the ball flush. And he's doing it at a top tier bat speed. He's now in the 85th percentile of bat speed. In 2024, the average was the 25th percentile. So he's swinging fast. He's making frequent contact.
Which is interesting because didn't he say that it wasn't always a good thing for him?
He said that earlier in the year, and he was right. So if you plot bat speed last year, he was at his worst in April when he was swinging really fast. You want to know why? You're out in front.
Sure.
So you get your best swing off, you're out in front. This year, his bat speed week to week, consistently higher than any stretch he had at all last year. He's just a stronger guy. He's doing Caleb Williams workouts, I guess. I think that's what he said on air, right? So thank you, Chicago Bears quarterback Caleb Williams. That's a huge thing to have the frequency of contact, the barrel, and the bat speed all matching up like this. Make no mistake about this. The version of Pete last year where he was, making us think he could be an MVP candidate, he's better now than he was at that point last year. Unmistakably. It's a matter of now, once the league adjusts again, can Pete adjust back? What is that saturation point for Pete?
Always a constant battle, but as we've talked about with him a lot, super impressive the way that he has adjusted. He's changed his swing, his approach, all this stuff so much in the few years that he's been up at the MLB level. And for this year, a lot of these changes, Brendan, in terms of timing, like really coinciding with getting into the leadoff spot. And that's another thing that stands out just as impressive to me is that he has not, and because this was always the debate when the Cubs are searching for their leadoff hitter, like, does it change their approach? What should their approach be if they're hitting in the leadoff spot, depending on the player? And for him to be going through these changes and growing and succeeding so much as a player while not letting that spot in the lineup change how he's going about his business is impressive to watch. But we know about the base running, although,
Sometimes he thinks he's Javi, and
right.
That's not the case.
He is not the first person. Wilson Contreras was the number one, perpetrator of this, but only Javi Baez is Javi Baez. It's you never want to go full Javi unless you're Javi. Not many people are capable of it.
Well, Rizzo had a few slides. It's magic. It's magic, Corey.
Well, I would never doubt or contest anything that Anthony Rizzo ever says or does, but we know what he can do on the bases and in the field. He's an unbelievable center fielder. But to see him now in this leadoff spot, putting up, like, the accolades are amazing. The, games with leadoff home runs, hitting for a cycle, seeing all of this data, but even just like simply knowing what we know about Pete and like wondering what he could be coming into the year, 276, 349, 505 slash line for Pete Crow-Armstrong. This stuff of dreams, Brendan. I mean, like really unbelievable. I think he's at a 137 WRC plus. He has like, an OPS in the mid 800s. It's a dream. I mean, it's absolutely just like if you were making it up, like your pipe dream of how it would go for him. This is basically how it's going. And thank goodness, because there's been a good stretch of baseball here where if not for Pete, the little,
multiple games.
Yeah. The monologue that you just went on about hope you can get into the wild card. We'd be done with that. Let me tell you, we wouldn't even be talking about that.
Different conversation. Again, It just leaves you wanting more. It leaves you wanting that superstar for the entire year. Maybe Pete ultimately is that guy. We just don't know.
And that's a good point. Like, that's the next step for him. Like, keep it consistent throughout the year. Maybe not to this exact level.
Well, I would love it.
Sure. But avoiding such a steep slump like we saw last year.
Yeah, you avoid the annual SEA slumps.
Being more level. Yeah. And hey, you mentioned like doing the workouts with Caleb. Maybe it's motivating that his best friend seems to be the quarterback of the Chicago Bears that, help them, in the playoffs against the Packers and all that other stuff. Strong motivating factor. You want to hang out with Caleb, you can't be putting up a 650 OPS, right?
I'm just saying, listen, also look at Pete's physical body type. He looks stronger, man. Like, his neck is thicker. Like, he really has looked like he's grown over the last couple of years. And you're seeing that in bat speed. You're seeing that in his overall look. How can you not be encouraged by Pete? I just will caution to not think, well, he did this last year and he faded. It could happen again. Don't get me wrong. But this is a different style of production that needs to be clear. The way he's producing now is not the same way he produced last year. It remains to be seen whether or not it lasts with the inevitable adjustments.
Yeah, and look, like, he's 24, but I think
which is crazy too, by
right? Because it feels like he's been on the team for a while, and he sort of has. But I think, another thing that like really just stands out, there's going to be some ebb and flow. The league is going to continue to adjust to him. He's going to have to keep growing and adjusting. But, anytime you can bring up such a highly touted prospect, you traded Javi Baez for him, a very significant trade. Like, it hasn't been perfect, and obviously a lot of the journey to go, but he has been a very productive player for this franchise. And you're looking at some of the time at an absolute star. And if he can just cement that, it's literally, we always talk about it, but you're talking about a 99th percentile outcome potential for what that trade was and that prospect status. Like, you're looking at it. It's not a hypothetical. Can he keep it at that level over the course of 162 games? That's the thing we need to see. But in terms of like, can he do it? Like, it's mid-June, Brendan. He's been a 4.1 win player. Like, that's a amazing value. Whatever this second half looks like this is such an excellent outcome for the Cubs thus far. And you're like looking at that glimpse of like, this might just be everything you could have hoped for in a player and when you make that trade. So let's hit our second ad break here, and let's talk about some of the guys that can't hit.
I was going to say, can we please talk about the negatives? I've been waiting all day for the negatives.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do the ad break here. The World Cup is here, and Casamigos Margarita is the perfect drink for your watch party. Bring your friends, fellow fans, and even your rivals together with a Casamigos Margarita. No matter who you're cheering for, raise a glass and enjoy the match. Casamigos Margarita is ready to enjoy right out of the bottle. It's made with simple ingredients, including Casamigos Blanco tequila, real lime juice, and natural flavors. Just pour it over ice, add a lime garnish, and you're all set. It comes in 2 flavors, classic lime and spicy. Plus, it's only 110 calories per serving and made with real juice. If you're heading out to watch the games, keep an eye out for the U.S. men's national team watch parties this summer. There will be samples, prizes, and plenty of soccer action. You can join us at Bub City on the 19th for the match against Australia, or at Joe's on Wheat on the 25th. Visit Casamigos. Visit allchgo.com/events to RSVP for any of those events. Please enjoy responsibly. It must be 21 or older. What if you could have Wi-Fi that wasn't just fast, but actually intelligent? What if you could keep that connection at the same exact price for 5 whole years? That is the Xfinity 5-year price guarantee. It's about more than just a monthly bill. It's about total peace of mind. Imagine Wi-Fi that makes every device in your home work together in perfect harmony. We're talking about a connection that has a sixth sense that finds and fixes your problems before you even notice them. It's the kind of power that lets you stream the big game in 4K even when the rest of the family is online. All that performance locked in for 5 whole years. Here's the best part: no annual contracts, no hidden fees, and Xfinity's best equipment is already included. A lock and change in 5 years. Championships are won, records are broken, and dreams grow bigger. But while the world moves fast, your Wi-Fi should stay reliable. Lock in your price. Unlock the possibilities today. Learn more at Xfinity.com. Xfinity, imagine that. Select plans only. Restrictions apply.
One thing, Brendan, before we jump into some of the struggles, when you were talking about the best case scenario and like some of that stuff, it was dawning on me, just like we drew it up, right? Like, they sneak into the playoffs, and then on the back of Ben Brown and Javi Assad leading the rotation,
God,
they trudge on forward.
This is how unpredictable baseball can be. Dude, can you imagine if we had, I don't want to say what if, but if we had Steele coming back at this point and Cade Horton was just healthy,
there's a different universe out there.
Universe. And then you have Ben Brown coming out of his shell and Shota at least performing like this. I would be thinking the craziest thoughts right now, Corey. I'd be screaming World Series. I'd be canceling my plans, which I've done in the past, at the end of October.
Well, your mistake for making them in the first place.
But sometimes I commit too early.
No, yeah. Wedding invite for late October.
Can't do
maybe.
it.
I can give you a tentative maybe. Yeah. Okay. So I do want to dive into some of the struggles. Let's start with do you want to start with the young guys and talk about Mo, Pedro, Shaw, or do you want to talk about the middle infield? It's on everyone's
mind right now. It's not Mo. The middle
infield.
It's Dansby, it's Bregman, it's Nico. So you can pick which of those 3 do you want to talk about first. I'm going to let you pick here, Corey? Which one do you want to talk about first?
Let's talk about Dansby. And so
Okay.
I know you're going to dive into some of the numbers. The one thing that I want to start with, just in a more general sense, right? He leaves the Rockies series, so heads into this afternoon's game with the Blue Jays with a sub 600 OPS. It's not good. And what is his batting average? 176. It's not good. It's quite bad. The one thing I'm going to say, though, and it'll tie in with the discussion when we get to Shaw and Pedro. I see it a lot in social media. I see it in some of the talk radio discussions. And I can't interpret what everybody means when they say, like, they got to sit him down, they got to bench him. But I do see some genuine calls like, he's done at shortstop. Put somebody else there, bench him outright indefinitely. I just one thing, right? First, two things. Firstly, that isn't going to happen. So just as like a broad strokes thing, unless he goes over his next 100 plate appearances, that just isn't going to happen. If you want to get angry about it and talk about it, that's your prerogative. But I'm just warning you, whether I want it or not, they're not going to do that. They signed him primarily for his defense. This is a big free agent signing, a veteran that they brought over, a leader in this clubhouse, in this dugout. And the only other thing I would add on is just don't think of all of this like a video game all the time.
Well, my graphs are like video games over here.
Yes, now that you've perfected your MLB The Show formula.
I sure did.
And again, it's not to say I want them, they're paying him, $25 million a year, therefore they have to play him. You think I want to watch him hit any more than that? You think I like watching guys with a sub 600 OPS?
Sometimes.
Like we're making jokes. He looks like John Lester.
Well,
up there.
that was my point. You kind of,
and that's derogatory toward John Lester, not Dansby. So I'm with you guys. I'm not like sitting here advocating that he's amazing and don't worry about it. Like, it's a problem, but there are real, like, it is not as simple of a decision, right? There is a human element to this, a front office element, a clubhouse element, a locker room cohesion element. It's just not that simple as saying, like, he looks terrible at the plate, he's done. We're playing a young guy. Dansby's not playing anymore. I want them to mix in those young guys. We're going to get to that. I don't think Dansby should be playing every day at this current state, but he has a long track record. You brought him in for a certain reason, and that certain reason almost single-handedly won you the only playoff series you've won in the last several years. Yeah. All my main point, to a long-winded point that, of course, is my trademark if you've listened to me for 10 years. I can't say anything quickly. This just isn't a video game. They're not going to bench him outright and just be done with him with 3 years of the contract left, nor should they. And like, it's not that simple as just clicking a button and he's not your shortstop anymore. There is more that goes into it. And I would just caution to like consider that as we're thinking through this. That's all.
I've seen it too. You have to dabble in the ideas, in the extreme ideas.
Yeah.
So play it out. Let's say you bench Dansby. Okay. Let's talk about this. You bench Dansby for more than 1 or 2 times a week. I'm talking he plays twice a week. Let's just bench him, right? Nico goes to shortstop, and then your second baseman becomes who? Pedro Ramirez and Matt Shaw. So your defense undoubtedly gets worse. That's fair to say, right, Corey? By having Shaw and Pedro. Okay.
Yes.
So then the question is, what is the likelihood Pedro Ramirez can produce enough offense to outweigh Dansby and Nico's combined offensive value? Give me the confidence in that projection, or Matt Shaw's defensive value plus offense. Give me the confidence in those projections. And you may think, well, Dansby's batting 170. I would say this is likely. It's not. Matt Shaw was a below league average offensive player last year. Pedro Ramirez had just experienced a power boom this year, whereas last year he was known as a contact guy without any power. You can't confidently project those two to produce offensively to outweigh Dansby's defensive value. So that's in the immediacy. Now, unfortunately, you do have to consider the contract. Everyone says, oh, don't consider the contract. You have to consider the contract. If you get value out of that contract, you can then spend money on other positions. If we bench Dansby and it does not allow him to snap out of the funk, then for the next 4 years, that's a lot of money sunk, Corey.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, oh, sunk cost, who cares? Don't buy into that. This is a finite payroll. This is not some type of this is baseball. There's boundaries here. And there is a risk. I want to win as many games as possible in 2026. I want to win as many games as possible in the next few years as well. And in each scenario, the alternative to Dansby is not one of a likeliness. So as a result, I'm going to ride this out. I am going to play Dansby Swanson a lot. Am I going to play him every day? Maybe not. Am I going to play him 80% of the time at minimum? Absolutely. Will people roll their eyes? Probably. But that's the way I view it. And if there's an optimistic take on Dansby, which I'm not saying there's optimism, but if you want to have an optimistic side and a pessimistic side, the optimistic side with Dansby is the decline does not appear to be driven by a lack of athleticism. It does not appear to be age-related decline. For example, pitchers over the years, they start producing less because they lost velocity. Jake Arrieta is a perfect example. Lost velocity. Kyle Hendricks, another example. Lost velocity. Lost his feel for his stuff. Dansby's hitting the ball harder. He's running with the same speed. He looks exactly the same defensively as he's had over the past couple of years. The age-related athletic decline does not seem obvious. I think whatever Dansby's going through mechanically, eventually he will figure it out. It's a matter of, does he figure it out in July or does he figure it out in September? And that is a gamble they have to weigh, but I believe that is the right gamble. And the wrong gamble would be to bench him, limit the probability of that happening, and assume that you get equal to greater value in the alternative. And that's not a popular opinion right now.
Yeah, I would like to see him sitting a little bit more. I think, if I remember correctly, he started all 3 of those Rockies games. Yes,
I believe so.
I believe so.
My memory is so bad these days.
Like, I would like to get Pedro in there more, and we'll talk about this. It's tough. I'm not, again, I'm not like saying that he should play once a week. I agree with you. Like, unfortunately, where we're at, and this, it was true last year with like the pitching staff and some of these other things, like the most likely successful version of this group is Dansby getting right and just being closer to his slightly below, or slightly above league average offensive self, stellar defense. The odds of that are just better than sitting him down and hoping that, Nico at short, Pedro at second pays off to that same level. It's not impossible, but it's a low percentage play. There just isn't the track record there. And you look at the potential, as you sort of allude to, that you disrupt the clubhouse, you kind of cut Dansby off, like he's certainly not going to get any better never playing. So you're kind of just like shutting that off for the significant future. And if Pedro struggles, sort of just like Mo did, just like all young players do, it's totally justified. They're young players. Now what? Then what are you left with?
Right.
A mess.
Right.
And again, it's not about the salary. It's not about anything. It's about trusting the track record and what the most likely good outcome for this team is. Again, though, I'd like to see these young guys getting more of an opportunity. I think seeing Dansby out there every day as he continues to not look good and the offense can score, I totally understand the frustration, and I would like to see a little more flexibility there.
Of course.
The tricky part with that, though, is how much would we care about that if the rest of the offense was doing their job, right? If you're tucking him away in the 9 spot, obviously you can't really live with a 590 OPS. He's got to be better than that. But if Nico were driving in those runs like we're used to, and we'll talk about him next. If Bregman was doing what he was brought in to do, say a Hap, a little more consistent to go along with Bush and PCA, like, I don't know, maybe we just watch Dansby make some web gems every night and he goes 0 for 4 and nobody cares about it, you know?
Yeah.
We were talking the other day, like anecdotal, I really don't always remember, but like, you know, when the Cubs are winning in 16, everybody's expecting more from Jason Hayward, but nobody's really talking about it. Who cares? They're winning by 8 runs every night, right? Like, he makes some good catches, throws a guy out at third. Who cares what he's doing? They're about to win the World Series.
Right.
So it's nuanced. Again, I'm not saying anybody is like necessarily wrong for wanting to see the younger guys. Like, I get that, right? Like, the offense is struggling. Dansby looked terrible, but I'll bring it back again, and then we can hit our last ad break. Like, this stuff, it's just not that simple. Should it be? I don't know. That's not really for me to decide. But like, it's a lot more layered than Jed just, you know, or Craig walking in there going, "All right, you're out. Pedro, you're in. Everybody moving on," right? Like, it's just not that simple.
Yeah. Young guys naturally are going to go through different adjustment phases too. I mean, Moises Ballesteros is back in AAA. He was batting second, and he was the consistent DH once May strolled along. So we have a lot to talk about. Let's hit our last ad break here and finish this up. The savings are heating up all month long at Ray Chevrolet during their summer sales event. Stop in today, save up to $13,000 off MSRP on select new Chevrolet models. If you're shopping on a budget, Ray Chevrolet has more than 100 vehicles priced under $20,000. With one of the largest Chevy inventories in Chicagoland, there's a great chance you'll find exactly what you're looking for. And as one of the top selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, Ray Chevrolet works hard to keep prices competitive so you can get a great deal. Plus, with Ray's price promise, you can shop with confidence. The price you see is the price you pay. Visit Ray Chevrolet at their convenient location on Route 12 in Fox Lake and see the savings for yourself. But don't wait. These summer sales events won't last forever. Shop Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or visit raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive Ray Chevrolet. The World Cup is finally back in the States for the first time since 1994, and with 48 teams competing for the first time ever, this tournament is going to be absolutely massive. The only problem, getting tickets can be tough. That's where Game Time comes in. I've been checking out the tickets on the Game Time app, and it's honestly one of the easiest ways to buy tickets to those big events. I was browsing upcoming matches and was able to find tons of available seats in just a few taps. One feature I always love is a panoramic seat view, so you can actually see what your view looks like before you buy. I also love that. The total price is shown up front, so there's no surprise fees at checkout. If you're flexible, zone deals can save you even more by letting Game Time pick them for you. So take the guesswork out of buying soccer tickets with Game Time. Download that Game Time app, create an account, use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CHGO for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today.
All right, Brendan, let's move on to his middle infield partner. Let's talk about Nico Hoerner. Last thing I'll say on Dansby, and then we'll talk about Nico Hoerner. He also, like, it's fair to say he's got to be better. Like, this obviously isn't good enough. So whatever your preference is, who's playing, how often they're playing, he's got to be better than this. He's rocking a sub 200 batting average and a sub 600 OPS. It's not good enough, and it's forcing these conversations, right? These weird conversations and people wondering what Craig should do and all that. He's got to be better, plain and simple. Let's go to Nico Hoerner, who different sort of situation here, because I think actually in the more recent stretch, like, he generally looks mostly normal. I was reading a good piece from Brett Taylor over at Bleacher Nation. I always do this. I read the article. It might have been Brett, might have been Michael. They're both great. I don't remember
the same
who wrote
people.
it. Yeah, I don't remember who wrote it. I've seen them both in the same room, so they're not the same person. But just talking about, like, sometimes you don't want to just say, like, yeah, this kind of seems like bad luck, but this kind of seems like bad luck. He's rocking I believe what would be a career low BABIP. And for the most part, like recently has looked normal-ish. And like, honestly, Brendan, like this is the life of a contact-driven hitter.
Unfortunately, that's
like,
why you want to hit for power.
Yeah, like sometimes, look, man, like he hits a lot of soft line drives, a lot of ground balls that you want to find holes, things like that, and sometimes they don't. And I'm not saying that explains all of this, but that's the life for guys like this. And even someone like Luis Arias, who's like probably the most pronounced contact driven hitter. It's going to be years he could hit the exact same batted ball profile. One year he might hit 320, one year he might hit 350, like same exact thing. Like that's just kind of the life you're living with this type of stuff. But take us through, I know you have some graphs. You're the Nico guy. We've talked about it. I don't want to, I know everybody wants to look at the hit by pitch that got him in the head. And of course, like the numbers don't look good immediately after that. It lines up with some of this. I don't really want to speculate on that. I don't know. I don't want to speculate on a head injury. I haven't seen like stuff that would kind of jump out at that. Like I remember when Rizzo got that concussion when who was it? Tatis ran into his head with like his knee in New York. Base. He looked like, when you looked back at it, you might have watched him and gone, does he have a concussion? Like he's swinging through fastballs over the middle of the plate. He looks late. Like he looks weird when you're watching him. I don't know if I'm picking that up with Nico, but of course you don't want to rule it out. Like I don't want to take a 97 mile an hour fastball to the head and then be asked to do my job. But I don't know. I just bring it up because I know people are going to wonder about that, and it's sort of a natural thought. But I haven't seen anything that like jumped out on that. But take us through what you're seeing with his swing. And, again, you're the Nico guy. Tell me if I should worry or not.
2 years ago, June 18th, Nico's batting average was 239. Today, June 18th, batting average 233. I forgot it was that low. You know what else happened, Corey? Through September 1st in 2024, batting average Nico Hoerner 256. Not that much different than 239, just a couple base hits extra. Nico's done this before. For as good as Nico has been and consistent that it's felt like, he has gone through prolonged stretches of poor offense. Like every single player who's not vintage prime Chris Bryant or vintage
PCA.
Prime. Yeah, or PCA right now.
Who
right?
Famously has never slumped.
He's never slumped at all. It happens. When I'm looking at Nico, I'm looking at if there's extra aggressiveness, if there's extra whiffs. And not only are you seeing that there's not extra whiffs, he's actually striking out less. And visually, I don't know how you feel, but for me, when I'm watching Nico, I'm seeing a lot of what feels to be like late contact. And I don't know if that's a compensation for maybe trying to pull the ball a little bit more when the year started. This is just speculation, but it looks like he's late. Naturally, we can quantify that now. And it turns out that, yeah, like Nico has been more late in June, statistically speaking, more late. 6% more late batted balls than in April. Not only is it late, but if we play this again on the video, where the ball meets the bat for Nico in June has typically been towards the end of the bat, towards the knob or the other side of the bat, not the knob. Whereas in April was mostly flush, mostly barrels. Nico has two things going on. The first is he's a little late. The second is with that lateness, he's not barreling the ball up. And I have seen that more and more in addition to some of the fly balls you're talking about. But like, frankly, Nico's always done that. He's always hit those fly balls that sometimes annoy folks. It's the extra 2 to 3 batted balls to the right side, or the extra rollover where he's maybe, not barreling the ball that's hurting him. Am I concerned about Nico? If we were to rank the 3 hitters in the infield to be concerned about, number 1 on the list, very much higher, is Dansby. I think you have to be questionable about Dansby. Number 2, is Bregman. Number 3 in the basement. In the basement is Nico Hoerner. Am I concerned about Nico? Absolutely not, Corey. I'm not concerned. The aggressiveness is not different. A little bit of a mechanical adjustment. Nico is one of the smartest players on the team in the league. And what we've seen recently is not unfamiliar. He has done this before.
Yeah. And I mean, look, I think at the very least, like, unless there is, an injury we don't know about or something that we just don't know about, like, he's just been such a remarkably consistent player that there's, some variance in where his numbers end up, of course. But like, even looking OPS 2021 to now, 751, 736, 729, 708, 739 this year. Right now it's 637. Yeah. Like, he'll be better than this. I just don't, like, we talked with some of these guys, like, to me, with Nico, I would put it simply like, do you believe that he is all of a sudden, despite years of being kind of a 280 to 300-ish hitter with a 700 plus OPS, that now he is a 240 hitter with a 640 OPS? Yeah. I do not.
I mean, sometimes the stats do end up like that, and there's nothing you can do about it. I'm not calling it misfortune or bad luck, but like baseball, that tends to happen.
So I do, to shout out our friends at Bleacher Nation again, it was another piece that, this one I'm pretty sure Brett wrote, but I might be wrong. I probably went 0 for 2 on that. And it was just about like taking the quote where Ian Happ was talking about positive regression to the mean, like, we're better than this. We have a lot of
that caused a stir online, those quotes from Ian.
That type of quote from that person, I'm sure. Yeah. Like, yeah. But he was talking about, we got guys with track records. Like, there's got to be some positive regression to the mean here. Like, we're not this group. We're not this bad in these stretches. And I think in particular, talking about like some of the runners in scoring position opportunities, and not putting words in Brett's mouth, but like, one of my takeaways in reading it was kind of just like, sometimes that doesn't happen in baseball.
It doesn't.
Like,
that's why it's so off.
Last year's Braves, kind of a good example. Similar, right. Like a lot of injuries, but largely the same group that is running as the best team in baseball right now, and was great the years before. Sometimes
even last year's Dodgers, they won 93 games, dude. Right? Was it 93? I believe it was 93.
I don't pay attention to them as much as you do, so I don't know.
Well, but like, to your point though, they underperformed. They got their pitchers
Sometimes
back.
It just doesn't work. Yeah,
it doesn't work.
Like, sometimes you have several guys at once have the worst year of their career, and even if it isn't the worst of their career by a large mark, well, maybe that performance doesn't look as good as the year before. It happens. Like, some guys just have worse years. There's not always a like, this is the reason, and this is what Jed Hoyer and Craig Counsell did wrong to cause it. It's just like,
isn't that like exhausting though?
Not your year.
Like,
what?
I mean, I feel as if over the past 3 years, and we do it because we do these shows, but more than half of our discussions or reading stuff online is like trying to assign blame. Well, I think they suck because of this. No, you're wrong. They suck because of this. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Sometimes they just suck.
Sometimes they just suck. And like, honestly, it doesn't even matter why, because typically the next year is they're completely different guys. It's just like exhausting.
Well, and I always talk about this. We're going to wrap up in 90 seconds here, but I always talk about, of course, the 2016 team that wins the World Series.
That's right.
Very famously. But like, it's the inverse. Everything almost, right, outside of like Kyle and I guess Hector and Pedro toward the end of the year, everything goes right. Everybody in your rotation is almost perfectly healthy the entire year. You get career performances out of guys who never perform like that again. Some of them don't even last in Major League Baseball for more than a year or two after that. It all comes together at the exact perfect time. I'm not saying this year is like the total opposite of that. Everything is going wrong, but sometimes it doesn't break that way. We always talk about those like potential outcomes, percentile outcomes. Like, part of that spectrum is not good ones. They're not all good outcomes. Like, sometimes you're a little bit below where you think you should be. And that's where this team has been right now. We didn't get to Bregman. We talked about Bregman last week. He's got to be better.
Simple
Plain
as
and
that.
simple. Like these
Pitching
guys
has to
have
get
had,
healthier. Pitching has to get better. Bregman has to be better. Or unless you're looking at an 82, 83 win team.
and they have to cash in on some of this runners in scoring position stuff,
Oh
especially sack
absolutely.
flies and creating big innings. They have to be better.
The one thing on Bregman before you wrap up, because I know we're about to go over.
Well, we'll go to a quick overtime, a very quick.
All right. So entering yesterday's game or two days ago now, Bregman had a team leading 70 outs with runners in scoring position. 70 outs. And it's not like, oh, you can squint. There's a couple good batted balls in there. 19 strikeouts with a 27% rate, 14 pop-ups.
That video you posted was disgusting.
14, Corey.
In a front. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, I watched a lot of Bregman videos before the Cubs signed him. I need to go back and check this. So I may be speaking out of my butt over here, but like, I don't remember seeing so many pop-ups. The fact that he had 14 pop-ups already this year with the runners in scoring position is insane. Joey Votto. I think of like the best hitters as a marker of, are you like Joey Votto? And Votto went the entire season in 2010 with 0 pop-ups. Took him almost 7,000 plate appearances to hit a pop-up to the pole side and first base. Bregman's doing that every other game.
5 minutes, yeah.
It's killing me. So it's beyond frustrating.
And that's where, look, like if you want the optimism, like they're getting on base. Like there's not that many games where they're just outright shut down, like no activity on the bases. They just cannot, like that's why Wednesday was so nice. Like finally a floodgates opening inning where it's several. I mean, they had scored several runs before there was even an out. I mean, it was like a different.
And then that was it.
Which like you could have predicted, right? Like, of course they were going to do that, but they have to be better. Like we keep talking about it. I'm still of the belief. Like I've been frustrated with some of the stuff that Craig has done. As I always say, he's not infallible. I think it took him way too long. Not that anybody's banging the door down to be up there, but like. At this point right now, continuing to bat Bregman in the top 4 did not make any sense to me, like whatsoever. I would like to see some more of Shaw and Pedro Ramirez in there while the offense is scuffling. Maybe doesn't always work. Maybe they give you a little bit of a jolt every now and again. And, look, those guys are young. You want to give them the opportunity. Like, you want to know what you have there. They're adjusting. They're growing. Like, you got to give them a shot. You don't want them just sitting on the bench and not getting that opportunity.
Well, that's why he's paid the big bucks to figure all this out, to balance the development, to balance the immediate value.
And look, we talked about it not being a simple thing with Dansby. Like, this is where Craig has to earn that luster.
That's
man.
Right.
Do you keep playing the veteran that is not able to hit his way out of a wet paper bag? Do you sit him down? How much do you sit him down for? Do you risk upsetting him? Do you risk upsetting the clubhouse? Is Jed going to say, hey, man, I can't convince free agents to come here if you're going to bench them a few years left on their contract? Right. Who knows? It's a lot to navigate. That is legitimately why he's paid this money. So reason for optimism, reason for pessimism.
Well, the biggest reason for pessimism, now that we're getting a little dark,
the pitching, the bullpen.
The pitching is a complete mess right now.
It's a mess. I mean, Palencia being out. I mean, this is multiple injuries now. Like, it's not good.
I mean, the last game against the Rockies, the bullpen comes in as home run derby. I thought they may have changed the home run derby rules for the last game against the Cubs and the Rockies. Phil Maton is throwing cement mixers right down the pipe. I don't even think cement mixer trucks can mix it like Phil Maton can at this point. Corey?
So I saw this on Twitter. We'll wrap up with this, and I want your answer. I don't remember who tweeted it. I apologize, but who would win in a matchup? Game on the line, bases loaded, 2 outs, tie game, bottom of the 9th inning. Phil Maton pitching to Dansby Swanson. Who wins?
Easy. Are you kidding me right now? I can go out there and hit Phil Maton, and honest to God, I'm pretty sure I can. Here,
I think Dansby walks. That's what I think is the outcome. I don't think anybody really wins. I think Dansby outlasts him. Yeah.
So, if you hate the analytics and all the stats, let me throw you some fodder over here. Okay. So I'm looking at all like the new swing timing metrics, and you have early, on time, and late. And I'm just going through the leaderboard. You know who's number 1 in Major League Baseball in the most early swings for any pitcher? Phil Maton. Phil Maton is one of the best at inducing non-timed early swings. I got slapped in the face. So if you hate analytics and you hate my face and you hate this show, you go and point that out to all your friends saying, see, I told you, analytics are ruining the game. There you go.
There you go. You're welcome. All right. So Toronto up next. And, I think, look, like you've got a tough stretch here. Toronto, the Mets, 4 games in New York, 3 in Milwaukee, first series in Milwaukee, then back at home to face the Padres, Cardinals. So, this is not going to be an easy stretch. And, they didn't exactly plow their way through what we kind of hoped, Brendan, would be an opportunity in the schedule to collect some wins. So I think it's a pretty simple recipe. You need the starters to continue to do their best. I think for the most part, they've been doing their best. The offense has to be better. The offense has to support this pitching staff more than they have, and they have to stop playing the same game over and over.
I need it for myself. I can't keep watching these games, Corey. I'm being honest with you.
Night, it is
it's killing me.
Game.
It's killing me.
15 people on base, and it's America's favorite game show, right? Can the bullpen make razor thin margin work? Find out tonight. That and it's yes, then it's no. Every night it's the same thing outside of like a select few games.
Yeah.
And right now for this group, the way to get out of that is on the offense. They have to be better. They have to pick up this pitching staff, and they can be better. It's not an unreasonable ask. They don't need to be the best offense in the league, but they cannot continue leaving 10 to 15 people on base every single night. They have to cash in. They have to give this pitching staff some run support. And this is going to be a tough part of the schedule. Like, this is not a 20 games under Rockies team that you're going to be facing these next several series. You're going to have to be better. You're going to have to play better baseball in order to win some series in this stretch. So let's hope for that. Brendan and I will be back with you next week, as long as we can all maintain our sanity watching this baseball team for another week. We appreciate your support. Don't forget to tune in to Luke, Joey, and Justin throughout the week. Appreciate your support. We'll talk to you again next Friday. And as always, go Cubs.
We all silly like the man.